A rough weekend for your silver and black, plus some wise yet telling words from Victor Wembanyama. That next on Locked On Spurs.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertronic Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
A happy Monday to you. Hopefully it was a lot happier than what it was for your San Antonio Spurs. A beautiful weekend in the city of San Antonio. No, I am not Jeff Garcia. I am his Ken's 5 Sports colleague, Casey Viera. Jeff doing whatever he does on a 3-day weekend. I don't ask. I just got to follow his lead. He told me, hey, I'm not going to be here. Would you mind recording for me? I said, all right, cool. So here we are. Here I am. Always good to fill in for the big guy. What are we talking about today? Well, of course, the weekend that was, which was not particularly great. But we'll talk about what's on deck for the next 11 games for this team. What kind of resolve should they be looking for? And on top of that, as I guess it kind of relates to that as well, an interesting comment from Victor Wembanyama leading into the weekend that probably did not get as much note, as much airtime, as much publicity that you would think it possibly would. We'll talk about that and some of your, I guess, wittier inbox requests, Twitter message, mailbags coming up at the end of the program. But let's start with what we got over the weekend. Friday night, loss against Memphis, heartbreaker of a defeat, rallying in the closing moments, only to have it all taken away by Jaren Jackson Jr. with a second remaining. Spurs lose by a bucket. Saturday night, quite the contrary. They get their doors blown off in the first of a 2-game set in San Antonio by Phoenix, a 131-106 loss. And honestly, a game that didn't even feel it was as competitive as a 25-point defeat. But hey, listen, we've kind of come across a lot of that this season. And we'll start there. Don't want to hit on it too hard because it was just kind of more of what we've seen throughout the year. But going to start in that Phoenix or after that Phoenix defeat because there was kind of a recurring theme that popped up again, no pun intended, post-game that sort of caught my eye a little bit. Why? Well, for me, of the many things that I think have been inconsistent this year with this team, it's kind of been the end goal, the messaging of what it's been. Is this a year of development? Is this a year that we're trying to win and make a playoff push? Is this a year surrounded entirely of building around Victor and see what works and what doesn't? What is it? Because at this juncture of the season, entering the last few weeks, we've heard all of the same. So, following the defeat on Saturday night, that won to Phoenix, a game in which Kevin Durant and Devin Booker combined for 77 points, Greg Popovich was asked, paraphrasing here, how do you slow that down? What do you do? Do you do anything at all? This was his response.
They did the best they could. I thought we were a little bit more, had a little more contact and physicality in the second half. But, you're not going to stop Book and Katie from doing what they're doing. And Bradley's healthy now. That's a pretty tough trio. So our guys did everything they could, and you move on.
Not super crazy by that, or me, by that response, and I'll tell you why. This Spurs team, despite all the issues that they've had, all the struggles that they've had throughout the season, the past 6 weeks to a month, they haven't been that bad. While the end win-loss result hasn't been great, we've seen a lot more of the team that we were expecting at the start of the year play out the way that it has. And that was not a playoff team, not even close to a playoff team, a team that would be competitive, a team that looked like they were going to give you flashes that they could be in the playoffs, but ultimately play out the way that it has. They would have their struggles because of their youth, because of their inexperience, because of the talent gap. There have been a lot of positive signs over the past few weeks. There was the Minnesota victory. There was the Oklahoma City victory, which probably was the biggest win of the season for this squad. There was the win against Brooklyn in Austin a couple weeks ago now. I know Brooklyn's not exactly a world beater of a team you got going on, but they were down by 10 in the fourth quarter, rallied, ultimately won in overtime. There have been positive steps that have progressed throughout the past month to 6 weeks. Now, every time a comment like we just played for you there gives a sense of indifference, a sense of a shoulder shrug, a sense of, it just kind of is what it is. And while it is to a lesser extent the truth, it takes away a bit from the progression that they have made. And they have made some. They have been getting better over the past, however, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks now. And every time that sense of indifference is acknowledged like that, it takes away from it in my mind. And we're not exactly in a spot looking at this team where a lot of things, positives, can be taken away from them because they've been few and far between. Now, that said, I'm going to play the other side of the coin here. Put myself in the Greg Popovich shoes, the Spurs shoes a little bit more. Haven't expressed as much publicly, but for me personally, I have felt the majority of this season that this was one of the most disappointing years in recent memory. I can't think of one off the top of my head where the year started. I watched things the way they played out. I saw the excitement coming into the year with Victor and have seen this season just turn into something mired and just mediocrity, if that. That almost feels like a positive word to say with this Spurs team. But I've dialed that back a little bit, and here's why. And you might laugh because I'm going to make, in my mind at least, the parallel makes sense with me becoming a father. Just a few months ago, I became a father myself. I have a 4-month-old son, my first son. And I have learned very quickly having a 4-month-old son is far more difficult than advertised, especially as a first-time father like myself. And when you're doing that, you're hearing a whole lot of advice from every which way. You're hearing it from friends, family. You're Googling things. You're reading things. You're having the physician tell you these things. Everything is just all over the place, coming at you so fast. And the majority of the time, you're just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks and whatever works and what does not work. And you're just kind of trying to keep your head above water because, hey, you have really no other choice. In this scenario, this team / Victor Wembanyama is the 4-month-old. The Spurs are Casey in this spot. Victor is such an anomaly, such an exception to the rule that perceptions that they might have had of this team are not what they expected to be, solely based off them not entirely knowing. They had a pretty good idea. They've had scouts in France following this kid for however many years now. They knew what they had in-house here. So when they're going out and they're sharing that message at the start of the season, Pop saying things like the next step is winning, is mandatory, all those words, Devin Vassell saying like, yeah, we're coming out here, we're hooping this year. That stuff I feel like is valid. I don't feel like they're going to the media and the fan bases and just giving lip service. I feel like that type of thing is valid. But at the same time, there was so much of an uncertainty building around Victor as to what he is, what he does, who works, who does not work, who's going to be here next year, who's not going to be here next year. Is Victor everything we expected him to be? Is he not? Is he even better? Where is he in his progression with all this? So many moving parts around this process. There's an element of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I think legitimately they went into the year and thought they were going to be a better basketball team to push for that play-in spot. Now the regression and how you want to blame it and point fingers one way or another, that's a different conversation. But in the context of seeing what they have and going forward, I think it very much adds up to what they were saying and to what they believed behind the scenes. And if we're being honest, at the end of the day, they're still where they want to be because there was no pressure to win in any capacity. They have the novelty of Victor, no pressure on him to succeed, and now they know. They know that not a whole lot of things work around him. He's fantastic. If you listened last week, you heard Jeff and I talking about it. He's already a top 25 to 30 player in this league and is only going upwards. And that might be on the negative side of the spectrum. They're set going forward. There was no pressure to do anything at all. And this is where they are. They're one of the worst teams in the league and 4 wins away from falling short and having the worst record in franchise history. And now they know. But hey, that's what it's all about, right? So 11 more games left to go on the schedule. What do the Spurs look to do in those next 11 games? Well, coming up after the break, we'll hit on that. Plus, as it pertains to that, some very interesting words and comments from Victor Wembanyama. We'll play that next for you right here on Locked On Spurs.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood is the only IRA that gives you 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirements with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% match on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. I want to talk about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what bring home the winning trophy, and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. Look, with eBay Motors, you have everything you need to maintain your vehicle to level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. What more do you need? Go visit eBay Motors right now, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. Look, with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and easy for you to go to eBay Motors as well as bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
All right, so 11 games left to go before we put a bow on the 23-24 San Antonio Spurs. What should be, and I say this in quotes a little bit, expanding things, what should be the resolve here as to how they find some of that resolve in these next 3 weeks and feel good about what they have going forward? Whether it be personnel, whether it be fit, any of those things, what should they find? Well, we're going to transition into this conversation based off something Victor said last week in practice, after practice, ahead of the Memphis game, that kind of flew under the radar a little bit. Because up to this point in the season, you haven't really seen a whole lot of him being pressed by the media of whether or not he and the team and the front office are all on the same page of growing together, of knowing what's going on. Ahead of the Memphis game, he was asked about that. He was asked one question, and it led to two, and it kind of opened the floodgates. And for the first time the entire season, we saw Victor hit on a lot of the things that you saw or continue to see Twitter talk about. We'll play some of that for you now.
And I mean, this is the good thing. I feel like there's no internal, there's no fights, between us. So it's good. It's the right way for the future. It's the best. I mean, couldn't ask for better, because it's of course my job is to be on the court and make baskets, but the fact that we work together, it's the best for both our development. I mean, as much as my role as a leader and as a player for the future is important, so I stay on my side. But it's, I'm sure also about the draft, they're gonna ask me questions about the French prospects we got right now coming up. So it's as before, everybody does their job, but I'm ready to be involved and to collaborate and give and help in any way I can help.
Very interesting. Very interesting. At least to me, I find that interesting, because so much of the narrative that surrounds him is the superstar novelty, if you will, for lack of a better term, in terms of the context of having a guy who works so aggressively with the front office and has such an impact input like he should with this franchise. And you haven't really heard Victor talk about that. I don't know if that was a matter of him just kind of getting his feet wet, and now that we're a month left in the season, he's feeling more confident hitting on those points. But you haven't really heard that talked about a whole lot until Thursday, which was when he talked to the media about that. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what the expectations, some of the resolve you should try to find out of the Spurs team in these next coming games. And for me, looking at them, looking at what they do have, the biggest thing I think they should try to find, to see, to get out of this is maximizing the potential of every single one of these guys on this team on many fronts. On the front of maximizing their trade value, because all the cards are going to be on the table this summer. All the cards, draft picks, every single player on this roster not named Victor Wembanyama, all going to be on the table to improve this team. Cut your feelings, cut your ties with the emotion. We're getting back to basketball. We're getting back to making this team a championship contender again, at least putting them in better places, the better steps to build that foundation going forward. The way that you continue to do that is to maximize everything with what you have this season. And of course, you're not going to get any final resolution, but you can get a whole lot closer to it. Over the next few weeks, I want to see the likes of Devin Vassell try to find that consistency, try to build that continued momentum he and Victor have continued to really gel and get going now that the team has been playing better and starting to look a little bit more like the squad we expected them to be. I want to see Keldon Johnson maximize a little bit more, become more versatile in that role off the bench. I want to see Blake Wesley continue to get more time. You can make the case that Blake Wesley is the most improved player, the most improved Spur on this team off last year. There's a valid argument for that I will not turn down. I want to see that continue to grow over these last few weeks on many fronts. One, because they might be back. Some of those guys, Keldon, Blake Wesley, Vassell, Sohan, Trey Jones, rattle off, keep going there from there on out. They might be back, but a lot of other guys don't. A lot of other guys, they don't know if they will be back or what their future holds. But the Spurs know what a good idea of what their future holds is that they're in a position to maximize this team's potential a lot sooner of the timeline than they expected it to be. Because like we were talking about before just a short while ago, they probably did not know that Victor could hit this level. Because he's fantastic. We know that. He is on a trajectory that we've never seen before. We know that. You can go on all day talking about we're not going to do that. We don't have time to do that. The Spurs this summer have arguably the biggest offseason in franchise history because they are in a spot to expedite that process. They have the assets, the tools available to them to do that they'll likely never have again in the Victor Wembanyama era. Between the 3 first-round picks this year, between all of the Atlanta Hawks picks, it feels like through 2030. It's not the case. They're loaded on that front. Between the Raptors pick this year, between some reasonable players, a guy like Devin Vassell could be had. Keldon Johnson could be had if the right deal is there for a star. The pressure is on them to get this thing right. And it doesn't have to be an end-all, be-all. They don't have to be a top 4 team in the Western Conference next season. Though, if they get the right player, it could happen. They don't have to be a finals contender. They just have to get it right. They just have to get it right. Because this year we have learned that a lot is not going to work going forward with this basketball team. But hey, that's what this season was all about, right? Goes back to what we were saying at the start. This season was about figuring out what works, what doesn't, and going into next season and years forward, either you have something good or you're trimming the fat and you're moving on beyond that. And the Spurs are going to do that. And they have that window of opportunity to take advantage of that come the summer months. Now they have to take advantage of the last few weeks of the season that we get to see these guys and wonder what their fate holds. A lot of moving parts. Yeah, a lot of moving parts, a little time to do it. We'll see how it plays out. I'm looking forward to it. And the Spurs have some big games starting tonight in Phoenix tonight, playing host to Phoenix, I should say, where they can show out. I expect them to not get their doors blown off like they did on Saturday night. I expect them to compete tonight, maybe not win, but I do expect the San Antonio Spurs team to come out and battle and play a little bit more like the team we've seen in the last few weeks of the season as opposed to December and January. We'll find out. Almost time to put a bow on this cameo edition, if you will, of Locked On Spurs. When we come back, we're gonna hit on a few of your mailbag questions, some interesting ones by way of Twitter. That's next, right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hey, I want to talk about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. They're the easiest, most exciting way to play DFS, and it's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You can start watching those winnings roll in. Look, they got it all at PrizePicks. You go download it right now. For example, you need quick withdrawals. They got that. Easy gameplay? Check. How about an enormous selection of players and stat types that are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app? They got that too. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Basically, each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide you even more value. PrizePicks is really simple to play. You can make your picks, submit them in pretty much in less than 60 seconds. It's super easy. What more do you need? Go download the PrizePicks app right now. It is so awesome to use. It keeps everything exciting. I have it. You should get it too. And right now, you got to go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Hey, PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Also want to talk about Mudslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, San Antonio. Go there right now. They have it all. Friendly staff, wide selection of drinks. They even got mini donuts. Yes, you heard me right. Mini donuts. It's pretty much sell out, apparently. Look, they have it all there. They're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs, and they're proud serving San Antonio community each and every day, giving you, San Antonio, the best drinks all around these parts. Hey, look, the Red Bull Lightning Fused series, yeah, the Lightning Bolts, basically go get it right now. By the way, they started using Lotus Energy instead of Red Bull. Now, Lotus has similar caffeine to Red Bull, but 7 power plant extracts, and it gives you more flexibility with creating new drinks. Hey, look, they still have the Red Bull available, But if you want, I recommend you try to get that Lotus. So yeah, their lightning bolt line includes the Alien, for Victor Wembanyama, and is now made with Lotus Energy. Combining natural caffeine and the powerful blend of 7 plant extracts, the new and improved lightning bolt will keep you powered up all day. And if you not take it easy, they have non-caffeinated drinks like the OG OJ. They got dairy alternatives. They just got it all. What more do you need, San Antonio? Go to Muslinger's drive-thru coffee right now. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, located in the 281 and 1604 area, open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You heard me right, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go there right now, San Antonio, because life is too short for bland coffee.
All right, so when Jeff told me to fill in, he told me, yeah, we're trying to get more engagement. I was surprised, actually, because he does a good job with engagement anyways, by way of Twitter, but we're trying to get more fan engagement in terms of the Twitter mailbag and getting some of these questions out there because, hey, you know what? You guys got a whole lot of things to talk about. So I posted on Twitter yesterday. I said, hey, I'm stepping in for Jeff tomorrow. I'm hitting that record button. I'm going to be here for a little while, and I have an idea what I'm going to talk about. But I also want to know what you guys want to talk about. And most of the stuff was a lot we hit on today, but some of it was the important things that we really know. One of the things that came in was from our buddy Rudy Campos over there, Sweep the League podcast. He said, go through each player on the roster and give us 80s cartoon comparisons to them. I'm not an 80s baby, so I can't follow it and make the parallel just as well as that. But I've been saying for the longest time that Jeremy Sohan belongs on an episode of Rocket Power. I felt like that dude is a perfect fit for that show. Did you guys watch that? I loved that show growing up. It was great. Then we had another one checking in here talking about, this was from Joshua R. Cook on there. He said, to paraphrase here, we need a deciding factor on the headbands, wristbands, tall socks, all that stuff. On certain nights, the record for it, where we at. And I don't have a whole lot of time to do that because I only had like 2 days to prepare for this show. But the aesthetics of like Jeremy Sohan that we saw a couple times this year with the double arm sleeve, the headband. I know Keldon's been largely headband, arm sleeve. There will be a study to do it, to figure out what works, what doesn't. Like I said before, all options are on the table with the Spurs team for next season. We'll find out. Hey, anything works. But that said, be sure to hang out with Jeff the rest of the week. Of course, always keeping you up to date with your San Antonio Spurs, silver and black. Again, they are back tonight against Phoenix, trying to pick up their 16th win of the season and move to what would be 16-56. As painful as it is to say, that's on the agenda tonight, a 7 o'clock tip-off from the Frost Bank Center. If you want to hang out with me, follow me on social media at Casey_Viera by way of X, Twitter, whatever which way you feel like calling it. Casey Viera on Instagram. Give me a follow there as well. You can also check out some of our work on Ken's 5 TV if you're in the San Antonio area, kens5.com. Catch me on the weekends holding down the sports desk at 10 o'clock Central Time. Always a good time hanging out with you there. And sometimes we get Jeff on. If you like seeing Jeff in person, you see plenty of him on Twitter. If you want to put a name to a face, sometimes you get Jeff on the program. It's good to have him on there as well. So be sure to do that. He will be back tomorrow. I appreciate the big guy for letting me hang out on this Monday afternoon. You guys have a good week. As always, thank you for the support. And we will talk to you next time right here on Locked On Spurs.